Hey, folks, welcome back to the Heart of Money episode 102. I am your host, Austin Black, joined by Mr. Bob Wessler, my co host. Bob, how are you on this lovely Tuesday evening?
I'm doing pretty well, but based on the conversation I think we're going to have, I don't think I'm near as nervous as when we had our wives on, or we preempted to have our wives on. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. We might be back there again, depending on what you ask me. But that first question was easy.
All I
That
asked you was,
like,
how are you? Is
right.
that tough? Is that a tough question?
It depends on the day. Depends on the day.
Depends on the day, where you are, who's asking you, where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing, and who doesn't know about it.
Yeah. Who's listening and
Yeah.
what I should be doing and what I forgot to do.
Yep, exactly. What did you forget to do tonight?
Well, I almost forgot to show up, but, here I am.
Barely.
Yes, barely. As always.
Well, folks, we're going to take a little different spin on tonight's episode, or if you're listening to this in the morning or whatever time of day you are actually tuning in. We're going to have some fun. Bob and I have each prepared a set of questions for the other person, and we neither one know what those questions are. So this is going to be a very open, candid mic Q&A. And Bob has been so, I'm not sure if it's brave or self protective, but he has agreed to be the one that answers the question first. I think he doesn't want to mess up on what he asks me, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's brave and willing to be the first person to, be embarrassed, because I don't get embarrassed. Bob sometimes does. But anyway, I'm going to be nice to you, don't worry.
Super glue what?
Yeah. So if you've ever wanted to get inside Bob's brain,
you don't want to go there.
Stay tuned. You're going to be entertained. You're going to be inspired to question everything about your life.
You might be questioning if you're inspired, might be the better way to put that.
But above all, you will just know Bob better. And that's really all this is about, is to understand what goes on inside those brain cells.
Yeah. Oh boy.
No, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. I've got some. They're thought-provoking questions. They're not hard, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
You can take your time to answer them. Just be sure that you actually answer them and not give a political answer. But I got 4 questions for you that I think will help in educating our audience around your brain when it comes to money and marriage. Are you ready?
4 questions? That's all you've got?
Well, you usually talk a lot, so
I thought that's why you had me around here.
Color commentary. Yeah, okay. And I'm prepared for it.
Fantastic. 4 questions. I hope you can count.
4, 3, 1, 2.
Yes. 18.
All right. So, question number 1. You always say, learn from my mistakes. So what are 3 things that you wish you had known about money and marriage when you were in your 20s and 30s?
So did you just make these 12 questions? You've got 3 questions. Is this one question with 3 in it? 3 things I wish I would have known in my 20s? I think one that I would start out with is knowing that there is no set schedule to life, that there is no check the box on A, B, and C, that once you do A, you proceed directly to B, you proceed directly to C. It may be in some cases there is a standard pattern of you do this and then you do that, but there is no set time frame for when you accomplish things. And I think that was one of my downfalls, was expecting that I just followed a path and nobody held me to it. It was just my own expectations and what I thought was expected of me. So that would be my biggest one looking back, is knowing that I didn't have to follow presumed external pressures, or just go through checking the boxes. Two more. Known in my 20s. See, I told you I wasn't very good at these. So, but these are definitely thought-provoking. I'm going to go with a pass and say that I come back to them if they strike me. Can we do that?
Okay.
Or,
Write that one down.
yeah. I'm 1 for 3. I'm 33%.
All right. Question number 2. Do you believe that middle-class families have the ability to achieve generational wealth? And if so, why don't more couples experience this?
Part of me wants to respond by saying that middle class is a label placed on people by, again, external sources. The middle class is so wide. It's kind of like generations. Well, who's Gen X, who's Gen Y, who's Gen Z, who's Gen Alpha? You have a general idea of who falls into it, but there's no hard and fast line for any of them. So let's say, unless you're the bottom 2% or the top 2%, the other 96%, plus minus 2%, could be considered middle class. That's a very wide swath, and yes, I'm overgeneralizing it, but everybody's going to have their own opinion of what middle class is.
Right.
So once you eliminate the thought process of who defines who I am or how I am, get that out of the way, and you go back to what we've always talked about, is achieving wealth depends on how you structure your finances. And we all have different opportunities. We all have, the big word recently has been privilege, more so older, not as recent as now, but there are those of us that have different opportunities, more privilege than others, more or less hardships to overcome, based on who we are, based on who we've surrounded ourselves with, based on our family lines, and unfortunately, still in some parts of this country, color of skin. A lot of that doesn't have to do with the person that you are. It has to do with how other people look at you, which is not your fault and shouldn't affect you, but it does. I mean, there's a very real mental, emotional effect that other people's thoughts have on us, whether we know them or not. But when we get outside of what other people think, and we create a plan and we stick to it, when we are in a position that we have decided, I'm going to do this, and this is what I am going to do, and I'm holding fast to it, I believe it's possible. I believe that truly is the American dream. We have these opportunities here that other parts of the world do not have. I think there are people that have placed limitations on that, whether internally or by giving up. And I don't want to discredit people that have had rough patches or are in bad situations. But we live in a country that has opportunities available if we would change our course by a few degrees. And I'm from the generation that you work hard. I learned that you work hard. There's always something to do, and that's to my detriment in some cases. But if you find something you're good at, if you work hard at it, opportunity comes, luck rolls in, and the right thing happens at the right time on occasion. But if you don't position yourself in a place where you're attempting to do so, it won't happen. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, why do fewer people do it? I think we are limited by others' expectations or the lies we've told ourselves based on our surroundings. You know, the most successful people surround themselves with other successful people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be very crass and say a person that surrounds themselves with losers is likely to be a loser.
Right.
A person that surrounds themselves with drug addicts will likely become a drug addict. Not because of who they are, but because the people they hang around with, that becomes their influence.
Well, it's kind of the same mantra. If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find a different room to be in.
That's right. You're not very smart if you're the smartest one in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So, or you definitely need to find a better room. But yeah, it's who you surround yourself with and what you want to attain and having goals. I think it's really easy to make an excuse or to blame somebody else. But at the same time, we can't do everything ourselves either.
Yep. Very well said.
Much better than the first question, right?
You can go back and answer the first question again if you got two more in your mind.
Still thinking about it. Yeah.
That was a long time ago, wasn't it? 20s and 30s.
20s and 30s?
Yeah.
Half a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Those 20 years disappeared pretty quick.
That's the truth. Yeah, I think it's way too many times we give too much credit to the people around us and their expectations of us, and not so much what do we want to accomplish and what are our goals. And if you want to accomplish something, the only person keeping you from doing that is yourself.
Yeah. It's at what point do you give up?
Mm-hmm.
How easily do you give up?
Yeah. I love that. All right. Question number 3. What are the biggest shifts that couples need to make to achieve the next level, or to achieve next level success with their money and marriage?
And you had to ask that question as my wife walked into the room, even though she won't hear this for a few weeks.
No pressure.
No pressure. Well, it's good that she didn't hear the question. So, I feel better now. Those expectations walked out of the room. What do couples need to do? Well, they need to be on the same page. I don't want to say in all areas of life, but they need to at least know each other well enough to know what their differences are and where they're going to disagree on things.
Mm-hmm.
Biblically speaking, the passage about being equally yoked, it goes back to the people that we surround ourselves with. Being married to someone, you're going to act a lot like them, or they're going to act like you, and start to look like each other and produce kids that look like at least one of you, hopefully. So really, I think the starting point is having a good foundation and then being able to tackle things together, and relying on each other versus trying to strike out and do things on our own, which I will admit, when my wife hears this, I'm not always the best at. So I think a lot of it is when you come to disagreements or you have an issue that there's a difference of opinion, figuring out the best way forward between the two, even though it might not be 100%, even though both parties might not be 100% on board with it, but relying on the other person, knowing that you have the best in mind, the best intentions in mind for both people.
Yeah, that's extremely important to, we're never going to be 100% in agreement, but we can be 100% in unison on what our goals, our missions, our, how things are supposed to look. We may not agree fully on the day-to-day tactic or thought process, but if we agree upon where are we going as a couple, that changes everything.
Yeah.
I think.
And sometimes you have to give a little, knowing that you can't win every argument, even though you might be right 95% of the time, you're still wrong.
Right.
95% of the time. So, knowing which battles to take and which to say, you know what, this is not my strength, I'll let you lead here. And just really relying on each other. And prayer really comes into it too.
Yeah, spot on. All right, question number 4. If you could teach every couple in America one money management strategy, what would it be and why?
One strategy. That is another profound question, because that is not an easy one to answer. I years ago, I listened to an author who had a book. Author's name was Andy Andrews, and he had historical characters, but he created a fictional story with the use of these historical characters. And the premise of the book, as you went through these stories, which were great stories that could be to some extent, could have actually happened, but you know that it was a work of fiction. The comment that one of the characters makes is, when you don't know what to do, you do something. So you don't stall. The whole idea of no decision is a decision in and of itself. So I preface answering this question that you have to do something, and you've got to start somewhere. And I would say the strategy isn't a one and done. It is a process that you build upon. And really, couples or anybody else, I'd give the same strategy. Is you have to figure out, speaking financially, you have to figure out where you are, and you have to have an idea of where you want to go. And you have to track what you spend to at least get you started.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to have an idea of, once you've tracked it, what you're spending the money on, to start creating a budget, to get an idea of how much wiggle room you have to spend money where, to then get into a point to say, I'm in control of my money. My money doesn't just fly out of my pockets. I choose to throw it wherever it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in control of it. And the strategy really comes down to, I'm starting a process, and I'm going to stick to the process. And over time, good times, bad times, I am able to define where my money's coming from and where my money's going. And then I can choose to allocate it as I like. I'm saying this from the perspective of someone that, like we said, the last 20 years has disappeared. I've had some highs, I've had some lows. I started late in investing and saving. I made stupid money decisions because I didn't know better, or I thought I was doing the right thing. Thinking I was doing the right thing got me in trouble a lot of times because I didn't put other people around me to use as a sounding board. Maybe that's number 2 on my list, is, surrounding yourself with good people, kind of like my answer to the second question. But once you get a foundation, you stay on the path, circumstances change, and likely, kind of like the market, things go up and to the right. You will accumulate wealth, and you get to the point where you have more of it. You have a job, you get a salary increase, or you get a bonus, or you find another job that pays better, or you lose a job and you get to start over and you try to do something else. It's not always easy. You can stumble some, but the trajectory should be where you are moving up and to the right. That you are becoming a better person. You are becoming more of who you should be. You're going along a path to where you can help others, either financially or educationally, by sharing what you have learned. Maybe kind of like what we're doing here, just maybe. Like I've always said, don't do what I did based on my mistakes. But again, the strategy is you start with a path, course correct when you need to, and it builds over time, kind of like the snowball going down a hill.
Mm-hmm.
You start with a small pebble size, and you can end up with something the size of a boulder if you know how to do it right. But might take a few tries. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a core fundamental principle. If you don't know what you're doing, you can never change or improve. It's kind of that, you can't manage what you don't measure type of mentality. I think a lot of people could benefit just from that alone, for sure.
Yeah, stick to the basics. There's the football analogy of blocking and tackling, or the Cheshire cat that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So
that's a good one.
If that really is the Cheshire cat, I don't remember, but that's the one I'm going to attribute to. So.
Yep. Do you got a third answer for your first question before we wrap up? Did anything come to you?
And the question again was things that I learned or should have learned in my 20s.
3 things that you wish you had known about money and marriage when you were in your 20s and 30s.
This is going to be profound because it's coming right off the top of my head. There's not always a right answer. I think there are times that we do what we think is right, and it probably isn't the right thing. And maybe this kind of piggybacks onto my second one of having the right people around you to bounce ideas off of, to know who the right people are to go to. Because gut instincts help in certain situations, not so much in others. The gut instinct might save your life, but a gut instinct might also cost you a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on the situation, and just really, sorry I lost my full train of thought there, but just the idea of making that decision and knowing who's around you that you can rely on to help you make that decision.
Don't blame yourself for a wrong decision.
No, I think you need to learn from them.
Right.
But the best mistakes made are when they're at somebody else's expense, and the next best mistake is one you learn from. In either case, you need to learn from it and either put it behind you that you did it and don't dwell on it, or thank God that it wasn't your mistake and you were able to learn from somebody else's.
Yeah.
And just
That's
don't
good.
make it twice.
Right. Very good. Well, they're really insightful answers. I think everyone can glean from that, and yeah, those are good comments. Good
Am I
thoughts.
leaving you speechless at this point? That you just
No, I'm just tired. That's what we get for recording this at night.
That's right. That's right.
Well, folks, next time Bob gets to put me in the hot seat. So if you enjoyed his commentary, you might enjoy mine or you might not. But anyway, come back and find out if I'm humorous, entertaining, and insightful.
And we know you are. We know you are.
Yeah, I tried to be anyway.
We've had 100 episodes to prove it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, 100 more to go.
That's right.
All right, folks. We'll come back next time, and you'll get to hear my Q&A session with Bob. So we'll see you next time on The Heart of Money.